This is Bill. He's a goat. A dead one, obviously. But he isn't just a normal dead goat. Hence the display case. Bill actually lived the majority of his life as a soldier, fully ranked as a sergeant and everything. From the time he was picked up on the Broadview train platform in 1914 until he was returned to his owner in 1919 just outside of Winnipeg, the goat served gallantly in the 5th Battalion Canadian Expeditionary Force out of Saskatchewan, enduring gas attacks, shellings, trench foot, shell shock, and shrapnel wounds. This little goat earned 3 medals, despite being court-martialed a few times and living to march in the victory parade in Berlin. Let's dive into Sergeant Bill Goat. Official military and Broadview historical sources say that Bill's recruitment into the 5th Battalion Canadian Expeditionary Force was pretty seamless. On a 1914 train bound westward from Regina to Valcartier, Quebec, the 5th would be granted a goat by the daughter of the local Broadview jeweler, Daisy Kerwayne. His name was Bill. Get it? Billy Goat, Bill Goat. It's funny. When the 5th embarked, upper brass told them that they couldn't get a goat onto the boat. So the boys brought Bill on anyways, and just like that, this little goat was now into the mud and blood, whether he liked it or not. And trust me, he did not like it. The court-martialings are proof of that. The first case was for eating official paperwork. The second was for headbutting a superior officer when he wasn't fed right. There are various sources to the actual rank of the victim, but as any weird story wants to do, the rank gets higher after every retelling. Some sources say it was a lowly sergeant, yet another says it's the brigadier general. Regardless, this goat was clearly not respecting official military hierarchy, so he had to go. This paper mentions that a rumor was started by the superior officers. Bill was a German spy. Poppycock. Bill bleeds green and gold. None of the men were having it. Every time a CO tried to take Bill away, the men defended his inclusion in the front. This goat meant something to these guys. A hard-working companion as stalwart as Bill is a rarity on the front. They paid the little guy in oranges and beer when he pulled their ammo carts, and that's all he needed to be happy. You can see the closeness in the poems and the parades after his death. For example, this poem is published to Bill's memory January 3rd, 1920. On April 23rd, 1919, a Regina holiday parade took place to welcome the 5th home. They have a specific request to have the taxidermied goat sit on a bespoke wagon accompanied by Shetland ponies. 2 days later, a large page of anecdotes was collected from the parade. The soldiers reminisced about the inside jokes, spoke of their time in Europe, and most importantly, shared the tales of Bill. While returning on the train, the boys of the 5th would draw caricatures of Bill on the side of their car. Another story of an unnamed cat is also brought up. These animals kept these men sane. Bill may not have shot a rifle, but he did a lot more than just carry ammo. One story recounts how Bill was lost after a gas attack, and someone mentioned the Bengal Lancers had found him and made goat curry. Nonsense! Bill was found pinning a German to the wall of a shell hole while nursing a shrapnel wound. He earned his sergeant's stripes that day. Another story from Festubert says that Bill headbutted 3 soldiers into a trench right before a shell hit the group's former position. Bill took 2 more hits for that action, but he earned his first medal, the 1914 Mons Star. Honest to God rank and valor, Bill was no different than any other soldier on the front. The Montreal Star mentions he got trench feet, and a paper dedicated to Bill backs it up with a location and time, December 15th at Hill 63, near Plug Street. Similarly, the paper mentions Bill was shell-shocked at the Battle of Hill 70 at Lens. The Canadians and Germans used poison gas regularly at Ypres, and Bill wasn't spared from its effects. Of course, the other animal mascots weren't as well. Bill was perhaps just better suited to frontline work. By 1918, Bill was one, if not the last, of the original mascots. He went the whole distance of the war, from 1914 to 1918, earning 2 more medals, the General Service Medal and the Victory Medal for time served and helping win the war. The goat from Broadview, Saskatchewan, who lived through 4 years of absolute hell, even got to march in a victory parade in Berlin with his own bespoke coat. I'd say he deserved it. Bill was not easy to get back into Canada. The COs didn't want a goat on a human ship, and immigration didn't care if he had jus soli. But Bill wasn't going to be stopped. He made his way back to Alice Kerwayne of Winnipeg after the war, but it had been a hard life for a sweet little friend of many in the trenches. The heroic Bill Goat passed away sometime in the fall of 1919, and he couldn't just be buried. A few local 5th vets gathered up some cash and had Bill stuffed. He did a post-mortem tour of the Regina Natural History Museum, the Saskatchewan Legislature where he was greeted by the Duke of Devonshire, and finally to the Regina Plains Museum where he was forgotten about and used as children's entertainment. He lost a horn and took some rough rides. His hide fell into disrepair, and rather than fix him, they just placed him in storage until someone cared enough to give old Bill the respect he deserved. The Broadview Museum, God bless them, managed to get Bill back in 1980. It took 2 years of love and care, but Bill can still be viewed today, as intended by adoring fans from the Fighting Fifth, because of the tireless work of restorationists. He was removed for a short film in 2017, but is happily retired in Broadview where he belongs. I'm gonna read the Welcome Home post in the Regina Leader Post from April 24th, 1919, verbatim. Please take a moment to take in the message. Of the brave band of over 1,000 men who went into the trenches near Fleurbeau in February 1915, only the above remained in January of 1918. After almost 3 years after the baptism of fire, today there are only about 12 of the originals, including the officer commanding Lieutenant Colonel LPO Tudor, who will detrain with the battalion. There is a member of the old brigade who will almost be as proud as any of the soldiers today, and that is Sergeant Bill Goat, part of whom is seen at the extreme left corner, bottom row. Thanks for watching.